Good morning. I'm not calling you out, but I'm calling you out just to give a couple on the just a couple minutes to sit down. Thank you for joining us. I'd like to thank everybody for being here today, allowing us to kick off AEM Monday right here in Las Vegas. My name is Megan Cannell. I'm President and CEO of the Association of Equipment Manufacturers. We are a North American-based trade group representing equipment manufacturers and suppliers in the construction, agriculture, and utilities industries. We're so happy to be here today, really excited to be at ConExpo ConAgg, the largest trade show, not in our industry, in any industry, and also largest in the Western Hemisphere. We're here to reveal our triennial economic impact report. We're going to be demonstrating the impact of our industry and what it has on our U.S. economy. AEM worked with leading global research group S&P Global Market Intelligence to conduct a thorough analysis of our industry's contributions to the U.S. economy, which we've been tracking since 2016. As our industry gathers here in Las Vegas, I'm proud to say that the manufacturers, parts, and service providers at ConExpo ConAgg, along with the manufacturers of farm equipment, who also make up AEM's membership, support a total of 2.2 million jobs across the United States. Despite the challenges the industry has faced over the last 3 years, this is just 0.4% below the number of jobs supported by the industry in 2022. We're really excited about that. If the 2.2 million jobs supported by the industry were for one city, here's a little factoid for you, it would be nearly tied with Houston, the fourth largest city in the country. In 2025, the industry directly employed 421,000 workers, just a 0.2% decline from 423,000 employees in 2022. Our industry makes a substantial contribution to the American economy. The equipment manufacturers added $415 billion with a B, to the gross domestic product of the United States in 2025. This represented 1.4% of 2025 total nominal GDP in the US. The GDP contribution by the industry was similar and larger than those of Chile, Egypt, and Portugal. I'm also pleased to report that this is very exciting, average annual income per job has officially reached 6 figures. The average US labor income per job amounted to $105,000, or approximately 50% above the national average. This is reflecting the highly skilled nature of our workforce. I'm now very happy to hand it over to Brian Beeler, who will dive into some key trends.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Brian Beeler, and I'm the president of ConAgg Americas. I'm also privileged to be the chairperson of AEM's Government and Political Affairs Committee. Megan shared the top line numbers, but it's important to dig into what these numbers mean, the trends over the last 3 years. As she mentioned, the industry employed 421,000 workers in 2025 and 423,000 workers in 2022. But digging deeper, the industry's direct employment grew 3.2% in 2023 before contracting by 1.6% and 1.8% in 2024 and 2025, respectively. Luckily for us, the construction equipment manufacturing sector fared the best. Direct employment grew by 2.9% in total since 2022, buoyed by 6.4% growth in 2023. The mining sector's direct employment grew by 2.4% since 2022, while the agricultural equipment manufacturing segment's employment contracted by 7.6%. Importantly, the off-highway equipment and ancillary products industry was more resilient than overall manufacturing within the U.S., which saw total employment fall by 0.3% from 2022 to 2025. The industry also outperformed the durable sector manufacturing, where employment contracted by 0.5% in the last 3 years. We are here at ConExpo ConAgg, after all, so I would be remiss if I didn't spend some time talking about the construction sector. To start with, construction sector as a whole, nominal, non-residential structure construction expanded 25.3% in 2023, while infrastructure spending expanded by 20%. However, both segments tailed off significantly in 2024, 5.3 and 4.7% respectively, and even more in 2025, with negative 2.6 and 2.6 for both areas. Let's look at another key metric, architectural billings. The share of billings from renovation activity is 45%, close to the 53% peak in 2021. Renovation work typically requires less equipment, so the fact that half of design work remains construction-focused reflects a significant change in construction demand. It would not paint the full picture if I also did not mention tariffs. Tariffs directly impact imports, not exports. However, as we've seen, countries targeted by tariffs have retaliated, increasing their tariffs on U.S.-produced goods and thus impacting U.S. exports as well. You can see here a chart of the top 10 U.S. construction equipment importers and the top 10 equipment export destinations. Interestingly, the top 10 importing countries remains the same as 2022. For the top export destinations, Germany is new in 2025, and we lost Russia due to sanctions following the Russia-Ukraine war. Still, there is reason to be optimistic. The boom in data centers boosted construction spending by 59.1% in 2023, 55.5% in 2024, and expected 37.4% in 2025. And still impactful is the construction of new chip fabrication plants and electric vehicle battery factories, which were incentivized by the CHIPS Act in 2022 and Inflation Reduction Act in 2023. Further, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act is expected to accelerate project schedules due to new tax credits and 100% bonus depreciation for construction equipment. I'm happy now to pass the mic over to Kip, who will speak more about what it means for new data centers and the policy landscape.
Thank you, Brian. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kip Eiderberg. I'm the Senior Vice President of Government and Industry Relations at AEM, and I'm going to close off this portion of the press conference talking a little bit about the types of policies that we as an industry would like to see in order to help us get back to the type of growth that we experienced in 2022 and 2023. As Brian mentioned, there's several pieces of framework legislation that has been driving the growth over the past few years and buffering some of the headwinds that we've been facing. Brian mentioned the CHIPS and Science Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, and the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. Those have been absolutely key in terms of certainty for funding for infrastructure projects, preferential tax code that would help drive greater investment in domestic manufacturing capacity, as well as some regulatory relief. But there are obviously some policy uncertainty as well as we move forward. The Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act that Brian mentioned is set to expire this year. That has by far been the number one driver for the construction side of the industry. And not just in terms of sale, demand for, and then corresponding sale of equipment. So much of the equipment that the industry makes is made in rural communities that are not close to any major ports or intermodal terminals, or it's challenging to get parts and components there and then finish products out. So investment in infrastructure is just as important for our ability to continue to manufacture in the United States as it is for us to sell equipment to customers around the world. So that expiring later this year is a bit of a dark cloud on the horizon for the industry. This is a highway bill year, so obviously we are going to be pushing hard for the reauthorization, the speedy reauthorization of surface transportation programs, the certainty that comes with a highway bill, the 5-year funding cycle that brings is absolutely critical. Brian and Megan mentioned agriculture. It should not be forgotten. We haven't seen a farm bill passed yet. We're dealing with one extension after another. And obviously, farm bill is critically important for driving demand for agriculture equipment, but it's so much more than that. It's also an investment in rural communities, affordable housing, broadband connectivity, lots of funding there to shore up rural America, where again much of the equipment is built. So there's some uncertainty, and last week we put out a policy blueprint called Equip to Manufacture. which is sort of built around three pillars. Broad policy areas that we believe that the administration and Congress should be actively pursuing if they want to strengthen American manufacturing and increase our global competitiveness. So it starts with trade and the certainty that comes with trade. We need those modern, enforceable, bilateral or multilateral trade agreements in order to continue to do what we do best, which is to invest in our communities, grow our businesses, and drive the American economy forward. Obviously, Brian mentioned tariffs. We'd like to see relief from tariffs, especially for those parts and components that cannot be sourced domestically at cost or at scale, and obviously expanded tax credits for export. And then workforce development. Megan mentioned the great family-sustaining jobs that our industry provide. We do have a skills gap. We have 42,000 job openings currently in the industry. Manufacturing as a whole is expected to face a 2 million deficit in terms of workers by 2033. And so policies that actively encourage more people to pursue careers in manufacturing, and that's greater funding for apprenticeship programs. It starts with that, but obviously there's other solutions as well. So that's just a little bit of where we will be focusing our efforts as an industry in terms of public policy. And with that, I believe it's time for the Q&A portion. So Jamie has a mic. We'll be walking around, and all of us are happy to take questions.
Any questions? Right now.
Hi, James Stead from Mining Magazine. You mentioned briefly the tariff impact. We've seen, for instance, Caterpillar's investors' calls. They're unwilling to really put down long-term plans because of the uncertainty. What are you hearing from other members of AEM in terms of the effect of the uncertainty for tariffs? Has there been some kind of quantification of the impact, particularly as regards to components used in manufacturing on the industry as a whole?
Can I just say one thing that you said the word certainty, and every member of AEM is looking for some sort of certainty. That's been the biggest challenge. How do you forecast? How do you run a business when there's such uncertainty with what your costs are going to be and where everything is coming from? But as far as a global or a united number, as far as that impact, I don't know that we have that, Kip, do we?
We have some of the data. It may not address specifically the parts components, but we do have a sense of the impact of tariffs, whether it's 232, 301, previously AEPA, some of the retaliatory tariffs that are being levied against the United States by trading partners. So why don't we get back to you with some of those numbers, and then we'll give you what we have. Hopefully it answers your questions. But you asked about what we're hearing. I mean, there are lots of challenges, lots of opportunities right now. The biggest policy challenge are tariffs, and what Megan mentioned earlier. Not only does it make it more expensive to manufacture equipment in the United States, it makes the equipment less competitive, both in the U.S. market, where it's sometimes now more expensive than imported equipment, certainly less competitive in global markets. And none of this, obviously, is spurring that massive investment in domestic manufacturing capacity that the administration would like to see and that we would all like to see.
Hi, Guy Woodford, Editor-in-Chief at QMJ Group UK. I just want to know a little bit more about what the AEM is doing on reskilling a lot of workers. We've got a digital age, it's new, AI is coming, it's here, automation. There's a lot about obviously getting more workers in, but they need to be with new skills. What is the AEM doing to equip the workforce of tomorrow?
Yeah, that's a great question, and one I think that almost every industry can grapple with at times. For us, we see workforce as a very regional effort and push. And so as far as the equipment manufacturers and us representing them, our job is to help educate our members on potentially different partners they might be able to find within their cities, their locations, bring them together. They share best practices as to what they're doing. and then make sure that the OEMs are really sharing and communicating all of the latest technology and innovations that they have to kind of get the next generation excited, one, to enter the industry, and then also take the time to look at maybe non-traditional workforce and be able to skill or upskill them as well. So we really see ourselves as a partner with our members, and then we'll support other organizations that also have specific plans with like AED, the Equipment Dealer Association, that's putting a lot towards workforce, or any other group that's out there. Do you have anything to add to that, Brian?
I think what you'll see is a perfect example this week is you go around ConExpo when you see a lot of the OEMs, the technology that's being introduced and what's being built into the machines and built into the systems to help educate the workers coming in to the workforce and help them less skilled workers that are coming in utilize the machines more effectively and get more production and efficiency out of the equipment.
That's good. Just as a supplementary there, I recently did an interview with the president of the Canadian Aggregates Association, the Producers Association. He was talking about a lot of work in Canada where they're looking at new immigrants to Canada and looking at for truck driving jobs and other jobs in the industry. Is that something that's happening so much in America? And if so, can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, it's a good question. You know, if we're focusing on one specific immigrant group or not necessarily. Again, with it being, I think, more of a regional need, you're looking at those people, our members that are within their cities, within their communities, and identifying opportunities, whether it's a specific immigrant group, a non-traditional group. I think you'll see it, they're taking that on a little bit more, not necessarily AEM. AEM is in favor of safe immigration policies, right? To make sure that we have a solid and strong workforce to support, whether it's manufacturing or on the construction job site or on the farms with our agricultural workers.
Thanks.
Questions?
Thank you. Murray Pollock from KHL. The employment numbers, the direct employment numbers are flat essentially over the last 3 years. Big thrust of the tariff policy is to create the local supply chains. Is it surprising that there's no uptick yet in the local employment, or is it too early for that to happen?
I don't think so. The supply chains, particularly global supply chains, domestic supply chains as well, are complex. They take years to set up. Reshoring, conversely, takes a lot of effort, and that only happens when there are domestic alternatives, whether it's parts, components, or raw materials. So I think, look, it's the day before ConExpo, so we should all have an optimistic approach to everything we talk about. But I mean, I think you could make the case that the fact that the industry hasn't grown, I mean, it's essentially flat, a bit of a dip over 3 years, where we've had two administrations who focused a lot on American manufacturing, strengthening American manufacturing, making it in America. That is certainly, it tells us that the policies that are being prescribed are not accomplishing that end goal. And obviously the geopolitical environment that we all live in contributes to that. Trade uncertainty around the lack of meaningful trade agreements, the uncertainty around the USMCA, which is up for renegotiation this year, and the tariffs. All of that makes it more expensive to make equipment here and a less favorable environment to grow domestic manufacturing capacity.
There's one, Kip talked about optimism as we head into this week. This is our chance. You know, we can highlight the amazing future that this industry has. We are long-standing, we're not going anywhere, we're only going to get better, and we look to all of you to help us with that perception of this industry, because there are great jobs, there's great paying jobs out there, and there are great people that work in this industry, and you will find them throughout every aisle and hallway out there in every lot and every building. So looking forward to really showcasing what this industry is about, the resilience, the success, and the excitement. Other questions?
Hello, I'm Graham from KHL. I'm just curious about the average pay for workers. You said how much it had kind of increased and gone up. If that's a trend that you see continuing, if that's something that you think might have reached its peak.
You said how much you pay for workers?
So yeah, I think you said the average pay
Oh, the average.
increased by 50%, was it you said? Or
No, it's 50% higher than the national average. It has not gone, gosh, if it's gone up 50%,
We would have no problem attracting people.
50% higher than the national average.
It's still 50% higher than the national average is a good figure, isn't it?
I think a lot of industries are putting a lot of money into getting the right workforce, and we're competing with each other. And so we want to make sure that these are good paying jobs, and they are.
Yeah, and I think with the new technology that's being brought into the industry, that's obviously requiring a different level of worker and a different grade. Also, not only with the pay, but part of that compensation is also the benefits that are very good. All of the OEMs offer very strong benefit packages from health and retirement incentives.
Yeah, can you talk about maybe some exciting equipment categories that had a lot of good sales in 2025 and that are continuing to accelerate in 2026, whether it's compact track loaders or big mining shovels? Are there certain categories that are exciting to you right now?
I can't speak to that because they are all very exciting to me. I mean, when you represent all of the equipment categories, there's not one that you're going to highlight. That's a great question, though.
I guess I mean from a sales perspective, is there certain categories that are really taking off?
It's a good question. We might have to get back to you on that one.
As
Just to
far as
clarify,
perspective.
yeah, are you saying like what are certain segments that are driving sales more than other segments or types of equipment?
Exactly.
I mean, there's always the in earth moving. I think that tends to lead at times. It also depends on the funding that you're getting, right, from the
We certainly sort of, and then we could get back to it on the policy sort of side of this question. You know, this current Secretary of Transportation is laser focused on accelerating funding for infrastructure projects where the equipment has a lot of technology baked into it. So precision construction technology, DOT sees that as a way of reducing cost, improving efficiency, improving safety. And so I fully expect that the next highway bill, if we can get one done this year, will have robust incentives for that type of equipment. So that might be something to be looking forward to, not currently, but you know, if the next 5-year highway bill has those robust incentives for that type of equipment, you know, you could see an accelerated demand for that.
And I'm excited about that as a road building manufacturer.
We have time for a few more questions. Hi, Jill White with ACP. How optimistic are you on the reauthorization? And what are the roadblocks?
Always optimistic. One has to be. Look, the president has said he wants a $1 trillion highway bill, which would be a new record. He wants more funding than the last 2 highway bills combined. Now, that's the president. It still obviously has to get through Congress, and you don't need Congress. It will face the usual opposition from fiscal-minded members of Congress, typically on the conservative side. There's got to be the age-old debate about how do you fund it, what do we do with the gas tax, what other funding solutions are there out there that might capture electric vehicles, for example. So that same debate about, you know, vehicle miles traveled fee versus the weight of the vehicle versus a more robust gas tax. I will say it's an election year. There hasn't been a whole lot of legislative wins for either party. Everyone's going to want to go back home after the August recess and campaigning, with the earmarks having been brought back for infrastructure projects. You know, that's a real positive thing for a member running for a re-election to come back and campaign on. And if anyone can convince Congress to pass a record bill in terms of $1 trillion, it's this president. So I think probably as optimistic as you can ever be about a highway bill getting through, particularly in an election year. So we feel pretty good about it.
I think one thing I would add is that there's a different vibe, it's the best word I can think of, within the industry. So, you know, there's many associations that make up this industry. And while we all collaborate, there's a renewed interest in really working together on our messaging and our asks, because, more voices saying the same thing could have a greater impact. So I was just in DC this last week, meeting with my sister associations, and all talking about what's the goal, let's set a goal and work collaboratively. So you'll have the equipment manufacturers, stone, sand, and gravel, ready-mix concrete, asphalt, you'll have the dealers, you'll have AGC, general contract. We're all going to work together, and we actually volunteered, or KIP is going to host in our DC office the next version of this meeting so that we can have a united voice on this, and make sure that we're all going after the same thing. That's exciting to me. I think the partnerships is really key. And again, leading into this week, it's the perfect time to talk about that.
Well, let's wait 2 more questions.
Hi, Sean Terry on Site Magazine. Jumping back to artificial intelligence, with the explosion of AI and other advanced technologies, wondering what your messaging is to folks looking to adopt these technologies and who want to allay fears of the displacement of human workforce.
That seems like it goes well beyond what we're doing here. That's just the world in general, right? Some people's concerns. There's a lot more that can get done when we embrace technology and innovation, not just from a safety perspective, I think, but from efficiency and resource needs. And for us, there will always be a human component, because you need that ability to think through things, not just with reason, but sometimes with empathy. And this industry definitely does incorporate all of those things. So for our goal in using AI or automation, it is towards more efficient, more safe environments, something that's better related to sustainability. It's not to cut jobs. The goal is really to work towards a better industry, stronger, safer. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Brian.
No, I think that, we look at that, as Megan said, the use of, if you look at broad equipment manufacturing, the use of AI or artificial intelligence for object or pedestrian detection systems to make things safer, autonomous machines to make them more efficient, but somebody still has to, do the programming for that. And so I think that there's an effort, broad effort to bring that in, but I don't think it's going to eliminate people overnight.
I think this week is an example of that. For years, I've been in this industry for almost 30 years, and every 5 to 10 years we talk about events are going to go away and gathering of people is going to go away, and we take that very seriously. But yet there is something to that human component, and it's not going to go away. There is so much more you can get done when you come here and you're talking to the exhibitors and learning what the latest innovation is, and then you cross the aisle and talk to their competitor and hear what their latest innovation is. And decisions are made and minds are changed when we gather in person. So I just think that the continuing strength of this event within this industry, for me, is an indicator that people aren't going away. We're just going to figure out a way to upskill or reskill at times.
Morning, Giovannini from Heavy Equip Magazine. You mentioned the tariffs and other policies and blueprints in the US are meant to help to restore the manufacturing capability in the country. Is this process really in act happening, or just OEMs are in a wait-and-see situation?
Could you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Are actually companies in the US manufacturing more, or just waiting?
Oh, I see. So if I understood the question correctly, are we seeing, as it relates to tariffs and trade policy, are we seeing more companies reshoring manufacturing or holding off, or maybe even moving manufacturing to other places? Is that?
Yes.
Yeah. Every indication that we have is that while there is some investment, particularly to meet some of the demands that Brian mentioned, data centers, for example, the tariffs are essentially a wet blanket, that is weighing down, capital investments, expansion of manufacturing capacity, and growth overall. And so while we've had some really important policy wins that have helped to buffer some of the impact, again, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act has provided a lot of great incentives and relief for the industry that has helped sort of buffer some of those headwinds from the tariffs. The tariffs are not, by and large, bringing around a manufacturing renaissance in the United States with more manufacturing capacity and supply chains coming back to the US. So if that was the goal of the tariffs, we are not seeing that. Thank you.
I think that was the last question. Okay. Well, we want to thank you all for your time and your questions and your interest. I'm happy to see you all here, and I can't wait to see you breaking in those shoes out there in the aisles. Enjoy yourselves, use your sunscreen, wear a hat, and have a great week. Thanks everyone for being here. Appreciate it.